The second part of this is I wanted to take the time to show you my notes, all right? And I was talking, why am I showing you my notes? Because I know some of you all, when I'm going through this stuff, and we're spending a whole hour on one verse, and you're like, man, that's a long time on one verse. Well, do I always spend an hour on one verse when I'm doing my personal study? No, no. Some of the verses that I study are very short, straight to the point answers. So let me give you an example. All right. So I'm studying the book of Hebrews, right? And I'm always using basically a standard 5 subject tablet. Okay. So what I had, this is a new tablet that I started because I ran out. This is Hebrews chapter 9. And I'm sorry about the writing, folks, if you can't see it. So you can see, I always do my verses right here. Okay, so you can see where I'm starting at verse 1. But notice, look at verse 2, verse 3. They're short, right? So verse 1, I got a nice paragraph there. Verse 2, look at verse 5. So I start at verse 5. Now watch this. Here's verse 5. What do you see? 6, 7. So that's, you notice they're not long. Now I get to chapter 9. I'm walking through chapter 9, and I get to verse 15, 16, 17, 18. Right. So here we go. I'm wrapping up the chapter. Now that's still chapter 9. So we're on page 4. So I wrapped up 4 pages on chapter 9. Now I get to chapter 10. Notice, what do you see? Over here on this side, you see verse 1, verse 2. So verse 1 is almost a whole page, verse 2. And then we continue verse 2, verse 3, verse 4. Now watch this. What am I getting to? Watch. So I get to verse 5. Here's a whole page on verse 5. Why? Because there's some good stuff in verse 5. I continue in verse 5. And it still is a page and a quarter, right? So I get to verse 6. Watch this. All of this is verse 6. These are just references down here. But verse 6, right? So the next page. What do you see? Verse 6. Here's page 4. Verse 6, okay? Page 5, verse 6. Page 6, verse 6. Page 7, verse 6. Page 8, verse 6. Page 9, verse 6. Page 10, verse 6, page 11, verse 6. I finally get to verse 7. He said, you wrote 11 pages of notes on one verse. Yeah. And then I go back, and verse 7 is just a page, 2 pages. Verse 8, verse 9. And I mean, that's how it works. And I have others that do the exact same thing. Why? Because I want to take the time to be able to walk through the scriptures. When it get to a point like that, and something gets deeper, like I was showing you here, and I said, hey, what is all this stuff? So you have to go figure it out. Well, verse 6, I got to something that was very important that needed to be discovered. So I just stopped. And when I stop like that, I just go find everything I can possibly find about that to make sure that I got it right. And it leads to stuff like that. Now, what is this? This is just scripture verses and references that, I go through, and I just split that. What I do, I'll take that verse, and I'll do this right here. Various times, I'll find out everything about that. various ways. I find out everything about that. What do you mean by he spoke? Whom did he speak and what did he say? This time's past. When is this time's past? And the fathers, who are these fathers? And what prophets is he talking about? So that's what you'll see in my notes, right? And then I'll just take it within its context and just break all that down. And essentially, that's what you see. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's 11 pages on one verse or 2 little sentences on one verse. It doesn't matter. It's what matters is that I understand the entire verse. And that's what I'm trying to show you. So I've showed you where I got very little writing on a specific verse. And then I have 11 pages on a specific verse because there's more in that verse or there's less in that verse. But the point that's need to be taken is that I understand the verse, each one of them. Okay.